Hello everybody and welcome back. Now let's discuss the lava effects creation and the process. And there's two ways of creating this effects. One is to actually create a flip fluid sim and create something similar to a river that is very stable and slowly moving, and we use high viscosity on the mesh and basically move everything accordingly and have a surface that respects the height and all the curvature that we want the lava to flow through. And then in the beginning, at the emission time, we add a noise pattern to the particle points that we want to advect, and over time, after the process goes through, we're going to see some swirly motion, and it's going to advect those particles in a fluid-like manner, which we can use to create the lava. But with particles, we have to convert them into a mesh, and then we have to make sure that the UV process gets retained properly, and that is simply slow. And the second approach is to fake the movements of the lava, and this is the approach I used, and it's very similar to what they do in real time, where they have surface. You can see Darksiders, for example, they have a lot of environments where it has lava flowing. They use the same technique. The idea is to have a nice texture of the lava, and then you use a UV coordinate that gets distorted over time in an interesting way, and then you apply the texture, and the UV will do the UV distortion, and everything will do the rest for you. And here it's very similar, except that I am doing all this in Houdini, and I could integrate and incorporate some geometry to deform and push the lava as if it's following the curvature of the geometry. So you can see here how this is working around this geometry. You can see some squishiness here, and basically every time it gets closer to the mesh, it's behaving differently. And then I also have respecting the curvature of the mesh, so this is not flat. It's actually following through nicely, and that is for the movement part, moving the texture. This texture could be anything really. You can map any texture you want, but once you find the good lava texture that you can project, then it's gonna feel and look very realistic. From far away, this approach works really well, even for mid distance. If you want to take this further, the next step would be to add actual sims. So that could be analyzing these bright spots and doing small flip fluid sim where it splashes, it creates a bubble and then it splashes, and that splash goes back into the mesh. So that would be taking it to the next level. And then you can also add smoke on top of all of this, either emitting here or just emitting constantly from the surface of this geometry, and using that as a second layer. Now, the other problem, apart from moving the texture, is creating the texture, and this is something I did entirely procedural in Houdini, and we're going to discuss it. Now you can Google magma texture or any keyword related to this, but so far I wasn't able to find a texture that I can use that gives me the nice details I want. So I ended up creating my own, and that's something I want to talk about and show, because the idea and the approach can be used in other scenarios as well. I think it can help with this project. So let's get started.